Hi, we're going to see basics of C programming. Let's see the fundamentals of C programming, which forms the building blocks of more complex C applications. C is a general purpose programming language that is designed to be used in variety of application domains that rather than specialized for a particular task or industry. So it can be used in different domains. It is not meant for one particular domain. It's a low level access memory programming language. It means that it will interact directly with the computer's physical memory and its underlying hardware architecture more than compared to high level languages which abstracts its management from the memory. Whereas C programming has the ability to interact directly with the physical memory. C has defined keywords which has predefined meaning and it cannot be used as identifiers, which means keywords which are predefined cannot be used for any other purpose in your application. And these keywords are categorized into data types, control flow, storage class specifiers, type quantifiers, function related keywords, and so on. C is an ideal choice for developing operating system, compilers, embedded systems, device drivers, and other performance critical system level applications. This is because its capability to interact with low level hardware and efficient resource management. C language falls under procedural programming language, where procedural programming language is a type of programming language that follows a step by step sequential approach to solve problems. Mainly, it focuses on procedures, which can also be called as functions, routines, or subroutines. So, it will be having a series of computational steps to find solution for any problem. In C program structure, there are different sections. Let's see sections: documentation, link, definition, global declaration, and main function in details one by one. Documentation in C program is the practice of adding information to a code to enhance its readability, maintainability, and understandability for both yourself and other developers. This information is generally added in the form of commands within the source code. There will be two types of commands, either single line command or multi-line commands. Here you can see the name of the file, author who is the owner of this program, and when this program is created, and what is about. So the program is for finding the Brickus number. So all those details are given in this documentation. So the one who reads this can understand the program general information. So this is the main purpose of this documentation. The link section refers to the part where necessary header files are included. So these header files contain declarations for functions, macros, and data types that are defined in external libraries or other parts of the program. So the main purpose of the link section is to inform the preprocessor and the compiler about the availability of these external resources, allowing the program to use predefined functions and data types from the standard C library or other custom libraries. And here you can see four main header files are included. So which is to include standard input output, console input output, and string related operations and math operations. We can define macros like constants, expressions, or even small code snippets using this hash defined preprocessor directive. So this preprocessor directive will replace all occurrences of the defined macro with its corresponding value or text before compilation. So consider this example where we have defined a constant pi with the value 3.14. So throughout the code, the constant pi will be replaced with the value 3.14 at compilation. Global declaration. This refers to the declaration of variables or functions outside of any specific function. So, by declaring it global, it is accessible from any part of the program, unlike local variables, where local variables are confined to the function in which it is declared. So, these are called as global variables or global functions, which has life throughout the execution of the program from start until its termination, and it will be stored in the data segment of the program's memory. Here you can see two global declarations. One is function area with return type integer and it takes an argument of type integer, and another one is n, a variable of type integer. So both are declared globally, which can be used throughout the program, and it is not restricted to particular function. Main function in C is the entry point for program execution. When a C program is running, the operating system initiates the program by calling the main function, which then controls the overall flow of the program. It is the very first function executed when a C program starts, and it must contain exactly one main function. The main function typically returns an integer value, which serves as an exit status to the operating system. So, a return value of 0 indicates successful execution, or when non-zero value, it denotes an error or abnormal termination. The parameters is optional to the main function, and here you can see our main function has no argument, so it is mentioned as void, and it has a return type integer. Within the main function, we are declaring and initializing a variable n of type integer with the value 15 and displaying the value. And finally, when the program is executed successfully, it returns the value 0, which is returned to the operating system, stating that the program execution is successful. The compilation and the linking process in C transform human readable source code into an executable program that a computer can run. This multi stage process involves four main steps: pre processing, compilation, assembly, and linking. We can see one by one. The preprocessor handles directives indicated by a hash symbol. This involves removing contents, expanding macros, including header files, handling conditional compilation. So macros are defined by hash define, header files with hash include, and conditional compilation defined by hash if defined or hash if not defined. The output of this stage is an expanded source code file, usually with a .i extension, which is the input for the next stage. The compiler translates the pre-processed source code into assembly language or directly into machine code. During this phase, the compiler checks for syntax and semantic errors. If successful, it produces an assembly file with the .s extension or an object file with the .o or .obj extension. If the compiler produces an assembly file with .s extension, then this assembler converts that assembly code into machine code, which is an .o or .obj extension file, an object file. So this object file contains machine level instruction but is not yet executable, as it may have unresolved references to functions or variables defined in other modules or libraries. combines one or more object files and necessary library files into a single executable file. Its primary tasks are resolving external references, combining code and data, and creating the executable file. It finds the definitions of functions and global variables that were declared in one source file but defined in another file or library. Then merges the machine code and data from all linked object files and libraries into a single executable file. The final output is an executable file which contains all the necessary machine code and data to run the program. The executable file that can then be loaded into memory and executed by the operating system. Constants and variables are fundamental elements used to store and manipulate data in C programming. Constants are fixed values that cannot be altered once they are defined. They are used to represent values that remain unchanged throughout the program's execution. In C, constants can be defined in two primary ways, using the const keyword or using the hash defined preprocessor directory. Const keyword is used to declare a variable as constant, meaning its value cannot be modified after initialization. And hash defined preprocessor directive creates a symbolic constant where a name is associated with a specific value before compilation. Variables are named storage locations in memory that can hold data and their values can be changed during the execution of a program. They must be declared with a specific data type, example int, float, char, before being used, which defines the type of data they can store and the amount of memory they occupy. Data types define the type of data that a variable can hold, determining the size and range of values it can store. They are broadly categorized into three main types: primary or basic data types, derived data types, user defined data types. Primary, these are the fundamental types built into the language. It includes integer, character, float, double, and void. In derived data types, it's built upon the primary data types. It includes arrays, pointers, and functions. Whereas in user defined data types, these are created by the programmer to represent more complex data structures. This includes structure, union, and enumerations. An expression is a combination of operators, constants, and variables that evaluates to a single value. Operators define the operations to be performed on the operands, variables, or constants. There are different types of expressions using operators. Let's see one by one. Arithmetic expressions use arithmetic operators to perform mathematical calculations. Relational expressions use relational operators to compare two values and result in a Boolean value. 0 is for false and 1 for true. Logical expressions use logical operators to combine or modify Boolean expressions. Bitwise expressions use bitwise operators to perform operations on individual bits of integer values. Assignment expressions use assignment operators to assign a value to a variable. Increment decrement expressions use unary operators to increase or decrease a variable's value by 1. Conditional operator or ternary operator provides a way to express a conditional expression. It's the only ternary operator in C, meaning it takes three operands. So condition can be checked using this ternary operator. Managing input and output operations in C primarily involves using functions provided by the standard input output library stdio.h. Unlike some other high level languages, C does not have built in input output statements. as part of its syntax. All input output is handled through function calls. Common input output functions are formatted input output, character input output, string input output, and file input output. Formatted input operator scanf. It's used for reading formatted input from the standard input device. It also uses format specifiers to interpret the input data according to the specified text. Output operator printf used for displaying formatted output to the standard output device. It uses format specifiers, example %d for integers, %df for floats, %s for strings, to control the data's presentation. Decision making and branching statements are fundamental for controlling the flow of a program based on specific conditions. They allow the program to execute different blocks of code depending on whether a condition evaluates to true or false. These statements evaluate a condition and execute a block of code if the condition is met. The primary decision making statements in C are if statement, if else statement, else if ladder, switch statement, and conditional operators. Here is the syntax of if statement. If the condition is true, the block of code will get executed. If it is not true, the codes will be skipped. If else statement. It executes one block of code if the condition is true and another block of code if the condition is false. In this example, the condition checked is whether the number is greater than 0. If the number is greater than 0, it is said to be positive. If the condition is false, the output is the number is not positive. Switch statement provides a way to execute different blocks of code based on the value of a single variable or expression. It is often used as an alternative to a long else if ladder when dealing with multiple discrete values. Switch off expression followed by different case values. Based on the value, corresponding case will get executed. We have several looping statements to execute a block of code repeatedly based on a specified condition in C. The main types of looping statements in C are for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Use for loop when the number of iterations is predetermined. Use while loops for conditions that depend on runtime logic. Use do while loops when you need the code to execute at least once. For loop. This loop is used when the number of iterations is known beforehand. It consists of three parts: initialization, condition, and update expression, all defined within the loop statement itself. See the syntax. With for loop, we have initialization followed by condition and followed by update, whether the value to be incremented or decremented. While loop executes a block of code as long as a given condition remains true. The condition is checked before each iteration. If the condition is false at the first step itself, the code will not execute even once. While loop is similar to the while loop, but it guarantees that the loop body is executed at least once because the condition is checked after the first iteration. It means even if the condition is false, it will execute it first time and the condition will be checked at the end of the loop.